Assalamu alaikum class. I hope you all are fine. I'll continue with the respiratory infections. You did smallpox and chickenpox yesterday. So we'll do measles, mumps and rubella today. We will start now with measles. As you know, measles is called khasra, and there's a difference between chickenpox and measles. Measles is khasra and chickenpox is lakra kakra. So, measles, as I told you before, it's an acute, highly infectious disease of childhood, but even now we can see this disease in adolescents and in adult population as well. So the developing countries are facing some challenges for the elimination of measles in the countries like India, like Pakistan. So the challenges which are faced by the developing countries are that our immunization systems are weaker, and the nature of the measles infection is highly infectious. And sometimes the populations, like in Pakistan, as we know, the far-flung areas of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or Balochistan, where the populations that are inaccessible due to some conflicts, or you can't reach there because as they are far away. So it is also one of the challenges for measles elimination in those areas. Now next is that some of the population, especially the illiterate population, they refuse the vaccination for their children. So this is also one of the challenges which are faced by the developing countries like ours. Next challenge is the changing epidemiology of measles, because of which the transmission of disease has increased among the adolescents, and even now adults can get measles. Next is the gaps in the human and financial resources at the country level, at the regional and at the global level. So these are the basic challenges which are faced for the measles elimination in a developing country. In 1980, there was outbreak of measles worldwide, and estimated 2.6 million deaths occurred due to this disease. So WHO and UNICEF, they developed a accelerated measles mortality reduction strategy of delivering two doses of vaccine worldwide to all the children through their routine vaccination services. And due to that, they developed the strategy, and it was further highlighted when they developed another strategy, which was developed in 2012, and which was supposed to be completed by 2020, which was called the Global Measles and Rubella Strategic Plan. And now, according to the plan, it was aimed that they should achieve and maintain high level of immunity against this measles in a population with widespread coverage of the population with two doses of measles and rubella containing vaccines. And another aim was that they should establish an effective surveillance and monitoring program, which should be evaluated accordingly to see how much progress has been made so far. And another aim was to develop and maintain the outbreak preparedness for rapid response against the outbreak or an epidemic, and appropriate management of the cases. The next aim was to communicate with the people and to just reduce the myths which were present in their minds about the vaccination, and to engage and to build public confidence in them, and so that the demand of vaccination was increased in that population. And another aim that they should conduct more research, and should develop support operations and improve the vaccination and the diagnostic tools in a population. Now, this was the 2012 to 20 Global Measles and Rubella Strategic Plan, which is the latest one, which is also given in PARC as well. Now, coming to the epidemiological determinants of measles. Now, number one are the agent factors. Now, in agent factors, I told you the agent is an RNA paramyxovirus which causes the disease, and the source of infection are the case of the measles. Carriers are usually not known to cause the disease, and the infective material which causes this infection are the secretions from the nose, throat, and the respiratory tract of a case of measles during the prodromal period and the early stages of the appearance of the rash in that person. Now, the period of communicability is high during the prodromal period and the time of eruption of rash, and usually the period of communicability is approximately 4 days before and 4 days after the appearance of rash in a person. Now, the secondary attack rate is none, as there is only one antigenic type of measles virus, and infection leads to lifelong immunity. Now, coming to the host factors, now measles can affect everyone in infancy to childhood, that is between 6 months of age and 3 years of age in developing countries where the environmental conditions are poor, and it can also occur in older children over 5 years of age in some countries, and it can affect both the male and female the population of children. And usually it is said that the infants are protected against the disease because of presence of maternal antibodies in them up to 6 months of age, and in some maternal immunity may persist beyond 9 months of age. That's why the measles vaccine is given at 9 months. But in case of an epidemic in a population, it can be given at the age of 6 months of age. Now, nutrition also has effect on the cell-mediated immunity. So, measles tends to be very severe in the children who are malnourished and have a mortality rate up to 400 times higher than in the well-nourished children who have measles. As in malnourished children, the cell-mediated immunity is very poor. Next, the environmental factors. Usually it can occur in any season, but usually the most epidemics are seen during the time of early time of winters and early spring, that is from January to April. And the factors which affect them are the population density in a area, and the movement of population, and the socio-economic conditions. They also affect the epidemicity of the disease. Now, the transmission of disease is from person to person, mainly by the droplet infection and the droplet nuclei from 4 days before onset of rash until 5 days after the appearance of the rash. Now, the incubation period is 10 to 14 days. Coming to the clinical features of the disease, now the measles is has three stages in the disease development. Now, number one is your prodromal stage or the pre-eruptive stage, in which the rash has not yet erupted. And next is your eruptive stage and the post-measles stage. Now, in the pre-eruptive stage or the prodromal stage, it begins usually 10 days after getting infected and can last up to 14 days. Now, in this stage, the child usually gets fever. There can be sneezing, nasal discharge, cough, redness of eyes, lacrimation, and the child develops photophobia. There can be vomiting or there can be diarrhea as well, and day or two before the rash appears, there is appearance of Koplik spots in the mouth, which are the small table salt crystals like appearance on the buccal mucosa opposite the first and the second lower molars, and you can see in the picture in the slide. Now, these are the pathognomonic signs which tells us that the the child is suffering from measles. Now they are small bluish white spots on the with the red base, and they are smaller than the head of the pin, and this is, as I told you, is a pathognomonic sign of measles. Now next is your eruptive phase. Eruptive phase, as the name suggests, in this the rash appears. Now the rash is a typically dusky red macular or maculopapular rash which begins behind the ears and then spreads to the face and rapidly spreads down in few hours over the neck and extends down the body, taking 2 or 3 days to progress to the lower extremities. And when the fever subsides, the rash also starts to subsides and becomes brownish in color and may persist in some individuals for 2 months or more. Now next is the post measles stage. In this stage the child usually loses weight and becomes very weak. Yes, and the nutrition of the child should be enhanced, and that is very important for the improvement of the immunity of the child. As the child is ill, so it is more prone to get other bacterial and viral infections. So nutrition of the child should be a priority, and it should be improved. Now, next are the complications. The most life-threatening complications which occurs in a child suffering from measles is the development of pneumonia, and there can be measles-associated diarrhea in some children, and otitis media also occurs in 5 to 15% of the cases. Now, next, a rare complication is your subacute sclerosing panencephalitis. This is, as I told you, is a rare complications which develops many years after the initial infection. And in this disease, there is progressive mental deterioration leading to paralysis, involuntary movements of the body, rigidity of the muscles, and coma. And probably it is due to the persistence of the virus in the brain of the child. Now, next is the deficiency of vitamin A can occur. Now, which can lead to keratomalacia and blindness from the corneal scarring. So, a high dose of vitamin A is given immediately on diagnosis and repeated on the next day. And the recommended doses are that 50,000 international units should be given to the infants who are have the age less than 6 months, and 100,000 international units for infants who have aged between 6 to 12 months, and 200,000 international units for children who are more than 12 months of age. Now, if the child has clinical signs of vitamin A deficiency as white out spots, a third dose should be given 4 to 6 weeks after the previous one. Next is the prevention of measles in a community. Now, according to the WHO, there are certain guidelines which should be followed if we want to prevent measles in a community. Number one is that immunization rate should be above or at least 95% if we want to prevent measles in a particular community, and they should have an ongoing immunization program against measles, and so that the next generations of the children are also prevented against that disease. For measles vaccination, live attenuated vaccine is used. It is a freeze-dried product, and it should be reconstituted with sterile diluent before administration. Now, 0.5 ml of this vaccine is given subcutaneously, or it can be given intramuscularly, but in our EPI program, usually subcutaneous dose is given at 9 months of age, and a booster is given at 15 months of age. Now, in case of an epidemic, the vaccine can be given at 6 months of age, and as soon as the child reaches the age of 9 months, the second booster should be given. But between the two doses, a time span of 1 month is important. Now, as I told you, it's a live attenuated vaccine, so it is a vaccine which is sensitive to sunlight. So it is kept in colored glass vials, and after constitution, it should be stored in a dark place at a temperature of 2 to 8 degrees centigrade, and should be used within the 4 hours of constitution. After the administration of measles vaccine, a child can develop fever for some days or can be irritable, but that's very normal, and it usually subsides within a few hours or within 1 or 2 days. Now, if a child develops toxic shock syndrome, which occurs when the measles vaccine is contaminated, or if the reconstituted vaccine is kept for more than 4 hours. Now, this is a state which is usually occur, and it is preventable, and it reflects the poor quality of immunization services in a community. Now, the symptoms of toxic shock syndrome are very typical, that the child develops diarrhea, vomiting, high-grade fever, and it usually is reported within few hours of the administration of the measles vaccine. Now, measles can also be prevented by administration of immunoglobulin early in the incubation period, and 0.25 ml per kg of the body weight should be given within the 3 to 4 days of exposure. Now, coming to the eradication of measles, it is believed that measles, like smallpox, is also a disease which can be eradicated. But for eradication, it is recommended that immunization coverage should be at least 96% of the children under 1 year of age, and the accumulation in the immunity gap should be prevented. Now, if there is an outbreak in a community of measles, now there certain control measures are recommended. Now, the control measures are that the cases should be isolated for 7 days after the rash has appeared, and those who are in contact with those cases should, within the 2 days of exposure, should be vaccinated. If the vaccine is contraindicated, immunoglobulins, as I told you before, 0.25 ml per kg body weight should be given within the 3 to 4 days of exposure. And prompt immunization at the beginning of an outbreak is important to limit the spread of the disease. The next topic of discussion is rubella, or the German measles. Now, rubella or the German measles, it's an acute childhood infection, and usually there is mild low-grade fever with lymphadenopathy and maculopapular rash, which usually lasts for approximately 3 days. But in this infection, if it occurs in early pregnancy, can cause serious congenital defects in the fetus, including the death of the fetus. Now, rubella was considered a benign disease until Norman Gregg, who was an ophthalmologist, reported an epidemic of congenital cataracts associated with other congenital defect in children who were born to mothers who had suffered from rubella during their pregnancies. So, due to this discovery, the further investigations were done, and it was found out that it has teratogenic effect as well. So, in 1967, an attenuated vaccine was developed for the prevention of rubella. Now, next, the agent factors for rubella. Now, the agent is the RNA virus, which is of the Toga virus family, and it is only one antigenic type. Now, the virus has been recovered from the case of rubella from nasopharynx, from blood, from CSF, urine, or the throat, and it can be propagated in cell culture. Now, the source of infection are the clinical or the subclinical cases of rubella, and this is the basic difference between rubella and measles. And as in measles, there are no subclinical cases, and the period of communicability in rubella is much less as compared to measles. It probably extends from a week before the signs and symptoms appear to about a week after the rash appears, and infectivity is greatest from 1 to 5 days after the appearance of the rash. Now, it can affect mainly the children of the age group of 3 to 10 years of age. And the persons who are older than 15 years of age now count for over 75% cases in developed countries. Now, one attack of rubella results in giving lifelong immunity, and secondary attack rates are rare. The disease usually occurs in a seasonal pattern, that is in temperate zones during the late winters and springs, and usually show an epidemic every 4 to 9 years. Now, the mode of transmission is through your respiratory tract, and it is directly transmitted from a person to person through droplets from the nose and throat and the droplet nuclei. Now, vertical transmission is also there, and the virus can cause the placenta and infect the fetus in utero, leading to congenital rubella in the newborn. And it has an incubation period of 2 to 3 weeks with an average of 18 days. Now, coming to the clinical features of rubella, usually it is seen that 50 to 65% of the cases of rubella are asymptomatic and they don't show any sign symptoms. Usually, a typical case of rubella comprises the prodromal stage, that is the viremia, that it shows low-grade fever, has sore throat or coryza, and then there is lymphadenopathy in the cases, like in auricular and post-cervical lymph nodes are enlarged, and they appear as early as 7 days before the appearance of the rash. Now, this lymphadenopathy is not a pathognomonic sign of having clinical rubella. In some cases, enlargement of the lymph nodes has also not been documented. Now, the rash is often the first indication of the disease in children. It appears first on the face, and usually within the next 24 hours of the onset of the prodromal phase, it spreads to the trunk and extremities. Now, this is a discrete, minute, pinkish macular rash and is not as confluent as the rash of measles is, and conjunctivitis can also occur. Now, the rash spreads more faster and clears more rapidly as compared to a case of measles, and it disappears altogether by approximately the third day of the disease. But the rash is an inconsistent feature of the disease. It can be absent in some subclinical cases as well. Now, the complications which arise in some rare cases, arthralgia can occur in especially in young women, and encephalitis is also very rare. Thrombocytopenia has also been observed as a complication in persons who have this disease. Now, the first trimester of pregnancy is the most important time for the fetus as the organs are developing. Now, if the infection occurs during this period, that it results in abnormalities in about 85% of the cases. Now, congenital rubella syndrome, it refers to the infants who are born with defects secondary to the intrauterine infection, or who show signs and symptoms of intrauterine infections after birth. Now, congenital infection is considered to have occurred if the infant has IgM rubella antibodies soon after birth, or if IgG antibodies persist for more than 6 months, by which time the maternal antibodies derived and have been disappeared. Now, the intrauterine infection with rubella usually is associated with the persistence of virus in the newborn. Now, rubella infection, it inhibits the cell division, and this is probably the reason for the congenital malformation and the low birth weight in the babies. Now, the classic triad of congenital defect are deafness, cardiac malformation, and cataracts. And other defects can also occur with them, like glaucoma, cerebral palsy, microcephalus, intrauterine growth retardation, hepatomegaly, mental and motor retardation. Now, these defects usually occur singly or in a combination. That's why they have been termed as congenital rubella syndrome. Now coming to the prevention, now the active immunization against this disease is now possible with the help of a live attenuated vaccine, which is RA27/3 vaccine, which is administered in a single dose of 0.5 ml subcutaneously. Now, the goal of vaccination or immunization against rubella is the prevention of rubella infection during the future pregnancies. Now, rubella vaccine is also available as a combined MMR vaccine, in which the three vaccines are combined for the diseases like measles, mumps, and rubella, and they are equally effective as well. Now, for the prevention of rubella, the vaccination strategy was modified, and the priorities now being made that first to protect the women of the childbearing age, that is between 15 to 34 or 39 year of age, and then to interrupt the transmission of the rubella by vaccinating all the children who are currently aged 1 to 14 years of age, and then subsequently all the children at 1 year of age. Now, the program then would then revert to one of the routine universal immunization of all the children at 1 year of age, preferably with the MMR vaccine or with the measles rubella vaccine. So the next topic of discussion after measles and rubella is mumps. Mumps is an acute infectious disease, and the causative agent is a myxovirus periditis, which is an RNA virus of the myxovirus family. And the source of infection are both clinical and the subclinical cases. Now, the virus can be isolated from the saliva of the infected person or from the swabs which are taken from the surface of the Stensen's ducts. Now, virus can also be found in the blood of the infected person, in the urine, human milk, and in some occasions can be isolated from the CSF. Now, the period of communicability usually 4 to 6 days before the onset of the signs and symptoms, and a week or more after that. And the period of maximum infectivity is just before and at the onset of the parotitis. Once the swelling of the glands has subsided, the case is considered no longer infective. Now, the secondary attack is 86%. Now, the age and sex of the host is that usually it occurs in the children who belong to the age group of 5 to 9 years, but can also affect adults as well. And the disease tends to be more severe in adults than in children. And one infection or one attack, clinical or subclinical, is assumed to produce lifelong immunity against the disease, and both sexes, males and females, are affected equally with this disease. Mumps is an infectious disease and it can occur throughout the year, but the peak incidence is in the winter and the spring season, and usually the epidemics usually occur where there are overcrowding of the people. Now, the mode of transmission is by the droplet infection or with the direct contact with an infected person, and the incubation period varies from 2 to 4 weeks, usually 14 to 18 days. Now, mumps is a viral infection. In 30 to 40% of the cases, mumps infection is clinically non-symptomatic. Now, the clinically symptomatic cases, they show that there is pain and swelling in either one or both the parotid glands, but sometimes the sublingual and the submandibular glands are also involved. And the child usually complains of earache on the affected side or on the side where swelling is present, and there may be pain and stiffness for opening the mouth before the swelling of the gland is evident. Now, mumps can also affect the other parts of the body like testes, pancreas, CNS, ovaries, prostate, etc. Now, in severe cases, there can be fever, headache, and other symptoms which last for 3 to 5 days, and the swelling of the glands usually subsides slowly and takes around about 1 to 2 weeks. Now, there are certain complications which can also arise with mumps, especially the complications like orchitis, ovaritis, pancreatitis, thyroiditis, hepatitis, and myocarditis. Now, the testicular swelling and tenderness tenace orchitis, which is the most commonest extra salivary gland manifestation of mumps seen in adults. It is unilateral in about 75% of the cases and are associated with high fever, which develops typically 7 to 10 days after the onset of parotitis, and about 25 to 40% of the post pubertal men. Live attenuated vaccine is present for the prevention of mumps. 0.5 ml intramuscularly produces detectable antibodies in 95% of the vaccinees. Now, vaccine is given to the children above 1 year of age, either alone or in combination with other virus vaccines, for example, measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, or as a quadrivalent vaccine with varicella. And a second dose is recommended for children at 4 to 6 years of age, that is before they start going to the school. Now, the control of mumps is difficult because the disease is infectious before it can be diagnosed, and however, cases should be isolated till the clinical signs and symptoms subside, and steps should be taken to disinfect the articles which are used by the patients, and contacts should be kept under surveillance. Now, this is all about measles, mumps, and rubella. If you have any questions regarding this lecture, write in the comment box, and I'll try to answer those queries. Thank you.